Do you need a sorcerer build that's insanely fun to play, while also maintaining very high DPS for both AoE and single target damage, as well as being very easy to set up, no uniques, and barely any legendaries required, and for once, not being a firewall or frozen orb build that either requires a ton of legendaries and uniques, or is just simply not fun to play. Additionally, also being able to clear the Undercity by yourself and T20 plus the pit, then I got the Sorcerer's build for you. Oh, and stick around because I am going to be giving away an Ultimate Edition of Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. What's up, world? This is Utopia back in another video. Today we're checking out all things Diablo 4. Okay, so we'll jump into the build. We'll get into some of the things that are required for the build. There's only a few things here that are going to actually be required for it, like legendaries and a few other things there, as well as just the build rotation, what we can jump in and jump out. First up here, we'll get into the skill tree, then we'll jump into the things like a little bit of the Paragon board, again, not too much required there, and the legendary gear. Okay, so jumping into the skill tree. First off, we're going to go one into Firebolt. This is going to be needed for your enchantments, which I will go over now and as well a little bit later. But we're going to be using Firebolt as well as Chain Lightning in there, and that's going to kind of mirror off each other. Firebolt is used to kind of proc enemies to be burning, which is going to allow us to do additional damage. Again, we're going to be looking for a lot of X multiplier damage, as that's where a lot of our damage for literally any build is going to come from. Jumping over, we'll go into Arc Lash, 1 of 5, and then we'll go into Enhanced Arc Lash as well as Flickering Arc Lash. Now this is to generate mana. As of right now, unless you have a lot in your Paragon board or a lot of resource management gear, which is going to be later stuff if you really want to get this build into endgame, this is kind of just a build that you can build off of at right after 60, pushing through a lot of stuff solo content wise and not having to use Firewall, which is both a very boring build as well as just it doesn't do a lot of damage. It's not very good in this later game area. It's very good early on, but it's not good once you get to 60 plus, especially when you want to push to the pit or even Undercity by yourself. You're not going to be able to do that with Firewall, at least in my case, unless you have a lot of gear and a lot of things geared toward that. This one doesn't require as much. So Arc Lash is going to help us maintain mana. The reason why is this Flickering Arc Lash gives us 5 mana every time we swipe at least one enemy. Jumping over to our core skills, we're going to take 1 of 5 into Chain Lightning, and then you can go into Enhanced Chain Lightning as well as Destructive Chain Lightning. This is going to spawn more crackling energy. Moving on to our defensive skills, of course, we're going to take 3 of 3 into Glass Cannon for that X multiplier. We're going to go 1 of 5 Teleport, then Enhanced Teleport, as well as Mystical Teleport. You could switch this out for Shimmering Teleport. Don't think you need the damage reduction just yet. However, if you want to switch that over, you can get that. But for now, I do like taking the Crackling Energy, as well as because we're a Lightning build, this is going to do a lot of damage for us. We're also going to take Ice Armor, 1 of 5, as well as Enhanced Ice Armor. After that point, you don't really need either for right now. We'll do 3 of 3 Elemental Attunement to get our defensive skills reset, both Teleport and our Ice Armor, and then 1 of 3 Energy Focus. The reason why you want this is because it grants a barrier. When you have a barrier active, there's a certain legendary that gives you an X multiplier. When you do have a barrier active, that will give you more damage. I actually don't have that legendary right now, so a lot of my damage is kind of nerfed a bit, but when you do have that, that is going to give you a significant damage boost. Jumping over to our Conjuration skills, we have 1 of 5 in our Ice Blades, Enhanced Ice Blades, as well as Summoned Ice Blades. That's going to knock down your cooldowns, as well as just being really good overall for essentially applying vulnerability, as you'll see. Also, we want to take 1 of 3 Align the Elements. This is taken in pretty much every single season. In fact, I don't know anybody that doesn't take this ability here or this little spec. And then we're also going to take Protection. This is going to give you that barrier. Again, using a cooldown will grant 10% as a barrier for 3 seconds. Just having barriers up all the time, great damage mitigation for 1, and 2, having that legendary apply into it. We're also going to take 1 of 3 into Conjuration Mastery. This is going to give us some mana regeneration as well as a little bit of increase to our damage. We're going to take 1 of 3 into our Mana Shield. That's going to give us another damage mitigation there. These skills, this has always been taken, but we want to put 1 of 3 into Inner Flame so that way we can get Devouring Blaze. Again, you will critically strike, or your critical strike damage against burning enemies will increase by 21% multiplier, which is insane. And if they are crowd controlled, which does include stuns, that will increase to 30%. Very good there. Most people take Devouring Blaze. It's been so good every season. Yeah, even though it got nerfed, this is still a good take. And of course, 5 of 5 Ball Lightning if we can. Then we're going to take Enhanced Ball Lightning as well as Wizard's Ball Lightning, which is much better than Mage's Ball Lightning. But Wizard's Ball Lightning, that's going to give us some crackling energy there. Very, very good. and which leads us over into here, this invigorating conduit, that upon absorbing crackling energy, you gain 12 mana. This is very good for our mana regeneration. We really do need this, as our mana is very resourceful in this build. Do need this a lot. Also, 3 of 3 static charge you can take here. Has a chance to form crackling energy, which I would take. You can skip out on that. As you see here, we have a new little path here that we can just take down this one. I don't have the stun one here. I feel like it's not a lot of damage overall, but you can take stun if you want to swap out something else. Jumping down to ultimate skills, one of the things you could swap out of is Fury Surge. I like this one. It's only a plus multiplier and not an X multiplier, so you could take this one. Basically, downing a burning enemy increases your mana regeneration chance by 45% for 3 seconds. I like this one. I think it helps with mana regeneration, but you are perfectly fine. If you want to get rid of this, you could hop into something else if you want some more damage. I like it for mana regeneration. I also went 1 of 3 into elemental synergies. You see, we're going to have a lot of extra skill points here like we don't from the other seasons. This one just increases your damage multiplier by 1x. It is somewhat there. It's not anything crazy, but again, something you can't swap out of, but I think any damage is nice. We're also going to take Evocation, gain a 12% cooldown reduction. This is insanely good because it goes off the base cooldown, as Gear does as well, so 12% cooldown reduction, definitely really good. 5 of 5 into our Unstable Currents. We are going to use an ultimate for this one. It does absolute wonders for this build. It's very nice to use, and the fact that you can spec into it more this season is really nice. Then we're going to go into Prime Unstable Currents and Supreme Unstable Currents, which will just have crackling energy, so they spam faster and pulse faster. However, you don't have to use this one. Crackling energy isn't the insane or that good of damage, so you could get rid of some of this stuff here if you wanted to. Jumping over, we're going to take Cursing Currents, which that gives us some critical strike right there. We're also going to take Electrocution. That's going to have us take less damage overall. And then we'll take Convulsions, which will have a chance to stun enemies. There's going to be some stuff on the Paragon board that will play into this, so you can do stun damage. That's an X multiplier that you really want to spec into. I did skip here. This critical strike damage increases movement speed. Conduction, I don't think it's that good unless you pair it with certain unique boots. We don't have those right now, so we're just not going to use that one. Last up here, key passives. Now, you do have a few choices here. Of course, you have the 2 base ones that we've gone over, which Crackling Energy, this one might be good for skill cooldowns. If you really wanted to play into this a little bit more, you could get your skill cooldowns up. In fact, if you took Familiar, which I might swap onto once my mana mitigation is good, the Familiar, instead of my Arc Lash ability, I might use this. I would actually maybe take Overflowing Energy over it. Veer's Mastery is okay for damage mitigation. It does some decent damage overall with the damage arc, or at least the 10% while charged there. Could take Veer's Mastery. There's also a legendary that plays into it, but for right now, I'm going to be experimenting with Enlightenment, so I'm going to be using that. I really do like this one overall. I think it's very good for boss fights and can pick up, and also does have like a little bit of a domino effect in dungeons. You get some mana regeneration there, you get attack speed, and you get damage. Seems really good overall, but again, if you wanted to play into these, you could as well. It's definitely a swap out. First up, though, as I said, I am going to be giving away a Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred Ultimate Edition. Of course, this is the most expensive package with all the bells and whistles. Now, if you do want to enter this giveaway, it's very simple. You don't have to do anything crazy, just head over to my Discord, and it's going to be in the giveaways channel. There's nothing to it, there's no Gleam giveaway or anything like that. You don't have to subscribe or do anything or even like the video. Of course, I would appreciate that, but you don't have to. There's just going to be a little button like normal or like my normal giveaways. You click on the button and you're entered into the giveaway. I'm going to have it run for a few days, probably 3 to 4 days. That way it gives people several chances, as well as my other build guides I might feature and talk about this giveaway. But super simple there. I'll leave a link to my Discord down below and the giveaway channel itself. Moving on to our Paragon board, as well as just our gear synergy. So overall, you're going to want to try to, as quickly as you can, put this board on and get Static Surge. The reason why is after spending a certain amount of mana, your next cast of Chain Lightning makes the enemies vulnerable and it restores mana, right? So there's a lot of stuff there. The synergy with that in your skill tree is essentially in here, where is after you automatically cast a Chain Lightning. And so there's a little bit of synergy there. This did play in elite and past Bell Lightning builds. I think this one's still really good overall. Even though we do have Ice Blades on our bar for that vulnerability, I do think this one's really good. And of course, you're going to want to play into your first one here and get the Glyph Socket going. Mine right now is Elementus, because that's going to give me the X multiplier here for that damage dealing fire, cold, and lightning damage. As of right now, we're dealing all 3 of those, and so we are getting 15% there. Fire, cold, Ice Blades being cold, fire being from our direct damage or that enchantment that we have on, and then of course lightning damage. So we should be getting 15% there. X multiplier, very, very good overall. Moving over to our gear. Basically, we just want mana resource regeneration as much as possible. So for here, we have crackling energy. Again, not too much here, but this does give us a little bit bonus damage. We have some armor stuff here. We have basic skill damage reduction, which should even be utilizing. I should pop this out, in fact. There's a barrier damage. I don't really have a ton of stuff that are optimized on it, at least for the gearing, because I'm still working on it. I'm only level 16 Paragon. This one here is what we want. Each time Chain Lightning bounces, we also gain mana. So not only is it regenerating mana from our Static Surge stuff, but we're also chaining it to gain more mana. This is going to give us a ton of mana there, again, playing into that resource generation. We have to have this ball lightning orbits around you, dealing increased damage. You have to have this legendary. This is a requirement, because otherwise the ball lightning is just going to go everywhere. So you will have to have this one. And again, we have another chain lightning one here. Has an additional, or at least a percentage chance, to chain to 5 or up to 5 additional times. And every time it bounces or every time it hits, it's going to give you mana regeneration. It's going to give you vulnerability stuff. We're playing a lot into chain lightning here, so that's definitely what you want. And of course, the other one here just gained 23 times. I'm going to swap this out eventually, but it's just a good offhand overall, or at least it's somewhat decent, and it just does a nice multiplier when it's on fire, lightning, and physical, as opposed to cold and poison, of course. But that overall is my build or armor set here that does play into that. It is a really good build. You'll see there's very good boss damage. We could take down our Undercity. We do really good in Pit overall, especially even solo, and being such a low level here in our Paragon. I've looked at some other streamers playing Firewall. They're still playing Firewall up to like level 100 Paragon and getting gear. So knowing that this build actually looks like it works better than theirs when they're doing the same stuff. You could do Nightmare Dungeons on Expert. As you see here, I'm on Expert mode. I have some footage from normal, but overall you can do it on Expert. I will have some footage on Expert. This build is very good overall. It's very easy to get going. You only need to be like level 8 or 9 on your Paragon to even be able to get Static Surge. So you don't even need to farm all the rep out on any of the new content or the new zone area. So this build is definitely really fun to use and utilize. It doesn't require a lot of setup. As you see, my gear is like completely unoptimized overall. So this build is definitely for you if you want something different. Again, if you want to do Frozen Orb, you can't really until you get certain uniques. This one doesn't require any of that. It only requires one legendary specifically and a few others if you want nice mana regeneration, although you can use Arc Lash to kind of substitute for that. Overall, that's what I covered for today's video. If you'd like and subscribe, and until the next one. Deuces.